everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a recommendation video for a very specific type of romance hero known as the Sina Dom. So this is a term that I did not coin myself. I wish that I did, but I think I heard this from Brie from In Love and Words. I think that was the first person I had ever heard this term from. So we have three different types of Cinadoms, at least in my mind. Either these are the type of heroes who are cinnamon rolls, they are just very sweet heroes, or they're very funny and irreverent, or they could also have a himbo type of energy to them, yet they turn completely dominant in the bedroom. These are basically the type of heroes that when they turn dominant, it's quite the surprise because it's like a switch flips in them and it's just a very pleasant surprise. So I have been planning on doing this video for quite some time. I actually was looking through my notebook that I use to plan my videos, and I first started making this list of heroes back in June of 2022. But I kept putting off this video because I don't have a ton of book recommendations for you. This is a very specific type of hero in my mind, and I'll get into that when I talk about the books and these heroes specifically. So out of the hundreds of romance books that I have read throughout my life, I only have 11 heroes to bring up to you in this video. So definitely, if you have recommendations for Cinadom romance heroes, please leave them down in the description below. So what inspired me to finally just go ahead and make this video, even though I don't have a ton of recommendations, is Caitlin from The Love Librarian. She was posting on her Instagram stories about how the hero, I believe his name is Ronan in The Highest Bidder by Sarah Kate, she thinks that he is a Cinadom hero, and she had first heard that term from me. And so we were chatting a little bit and I told her that I was wanting to make this video, and she was like, please make the video. And so here I am, Caitlin, I am making this video for you. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into these recommendations. The first hero that I want to bring up is Jason from The Lineup by Megan Quinn. This is book 3 in her Brentwood Boys series, which is a baseball romance series. This is still the only book that I have read from this series and from this author. I am planning on checking out more of her books in the near future because I read this back in like August of 2021. It's been quite some time, and I really enjoyed this book because Megan Quinn has a very unique and quirky sense of humor, and this is a sunshiny hero, grumpy heroine trope that I really loved. And so Jason is, of course, a baseball player, and he's very sunshiny, very funny, very outgoing, very extroverted for sure. But then during the first sex scene between him and Dottie, the heroine, we see that, oh, all right, he is dominant for sure. He is a dirty talker. I mean, this man has a filthy mouth, and you wouldn't necessarily expect that out of someone as sunshiny and outgoing as Jason, which was why it was such a pleasant surprise. So next up, I have Worship by Jack Harbin. So this is about Arden, our hero, who is this very sweet and nerdy guy. He has been pining for years after Spencer, our heroine. They went to high school together. So this novella starts at, I believe, like a 10-year high school reunion, and Spencer is getting brutally bullied by someone. I think she was friends with this girl when they were in high school, and now this girl hates her guts. And so Spencer ends up with all of this like food and drink all over her, and so Arden steps in and takes Spencer to the school locker room so that she can take a shower and clean herself up. But then he joins her in the shower, and oh boy, Arden is the type of hero that because he's been pining after Spencer for so long, he is not going to give her up now that he has her. So he does turn very dominant. We see that in their shower scene together, and it's amazing. He's a very swoony hero, and just like the title would suggest, he worships the ground that Spencer walks on, and we love a worshipping hero. Next up on this list, we have Bennett from her Virgin Duke. So Nicklin Davidson is my top favorite erotic historical romance author, and one of the reasons why is that she is so amazing at writing all different types of character dynamics within the sexual relationships that she writes about. I hope that made sense. But we have novellas like this where Bennett is a very shy virgin hero who becomes dominant when he is encouraged by the heroine, but she also has some amazing novellas that feature femdoms where the heroine is the dominant one in the relationship. So I just wanted to point that out. I am a huge Nicola Davidson fan, but yes, like I said, Bennett, he is of course the Virgin Duke of this story, and he's 25 years old. He has never really been able to live his life to the fullest because he inherited the dukedom when he was 15, and there's like this small committee of older men that have really been in charge of the dukedom until Bennett turned 25. He reached his majority and he could really run the dukedom himself. And so these men have ruled his life, and they never let him have any type of fun, including in a romantic or sexual way. And so he ends up at this sex and pleasure club that I believe the heroine is Delilah. I think that's her name. Delilah runs this club. So through the two of them meeting, Delilah encourages Bennett to explore himself sexually, and so he quickly realizes, as well as Delilah and the reader, that he is definitely dominant and he has quite the filthy mouth when encouraged, and it's just amazing because Bennett is just the sweetest man. He also has a shy energy to him, yet once again that switch flips and he's completely different in the bedroom, and it's just amazing. What can I say? Next, I have two heroes from the Bellamy Creek series by Melanie Harlow. Now, to be honest, I read these books quite some time ago. I really don't remember too much about the sex scenes in these books, but these two heroes definitely give me those Cinedom vibes. So the first hero that I want to bring up from this series is Griffin from Drive Me Wild, which is book 1. And Griffin has a slightly gruff and grumpy exterior to him, but basically, as soon as he meets the heroine, that veneer goes away. He's actually a very sweet man. And so, yeah, we definitely get those dominant vibes from him during the sex scenes. Similar to Cole, who is the hero in book 2, which is Make Me Yours. This one is a childhood friends to lovers romance. And Cole, I think, has more of a sweet and shy energy than Griffin from book 1. And actually the first sex scene in this book happens because Cheyenne gets drunk and sexts Cole, and Cole replies with, "Keep going." And we also see that Cole has that dominant energy in the bedroom, and it's just amazing. It's a fun time, you know? Next up, I have to bring up, ooh, this might be my favorite Sophie Lark hero I've read so far. Yeah, I can confidently say this is my favorite Sophie Lark hero so far. That has to be Raylan from Broken Vow by the Queen, Sophie Lark. So this is book 5 in her Brutal Birthright series, which is a mafia romance series, though this book has a very different vibe from the rest of the books, I would say. But we have Riona, who is a grumpy, ice-cold heroine, and someone is trying to have her killed. And so Raylan, who is a friend of the family, is tasked to be her bodyguard now. And Raylan is the type of Cinedom that he is just very sunshiny and just the opposite of Riona. He really likes to get under her skin. Yet, when he's put in the bodyguard situation, of course, he's very serious. And then, if you've read this book, you know the scene I'm about to bring up. There is a sex scene where he takes Riona into his barn and he ties her up, and things get very interesting from there. So I think this is one of the only books on this list that I'm going to bring up that actually has BDSM elements to it, even though a submissive dominant dynamic is something from BDSM. This is one of the only books that actually has those kind of elements in it. Did that make sense? I hope so. Who knows? I'm tired. But yes, Raylan is just such a lovable hero. And once again, when that switch flips, it definitely takes you by surprise, and it's incredible. I could go on about how much I love Raylan and Riona, because Riona is one of my favorite Sophie Lark heroines as well. But yes, so good. Next up, I am gonna bring up one of my top favorite books by Tessa Bailey. So Tessa Bailey typically writes either grumpy heroes or just, I would say, like neutral heroes that just have very dirty mouths. Like that's definitely Tessa Bailey's thing, is the dirty talk in her spicy scenes. But the hero in Window Shopping, which is Tessa Bailey's Christmas romance, as you can tell, is very different. So Aiden is very sunshiny, very outgoing. He was definitely inspired by Ted Lasso, though I have not watched that show, but I've kind of seen that floating around the internet, that was the inspiration for his character. So he works for this department store known as Vivant, and Stella, our heroine, is a grumpy, icy heroine. Do we see a theme here with these Cinnadom heroes? I love a grumpy heroine, sunshiny hero dynamic as well. That is just one of my top favorite tropes. So the two of them meet when Stella is walking by the window displays of Vivant, and she's clearly not impressed, and so Aiden asks her honest opinion, and she gives them, because that was something that she studied in her past. She ends up going to prison, and she had recently gotten out of prison, and so that's where we find Stella at the beginning of the book. But that's what she wanted to do with her life, was work on window displays for department stores. And so even though she has a criminal record, Aiden hires her, and so over the course of the novel, they start falling for each other. And whoo, the sex scenes in this. Aiden, like I said, he's just a very different kind of hero for Tessa Bailey, so I didn't really know quite what to expect from him in the sex scenes. I kind of thought he was going to be sweeter than the kind of heroes that Tessa Bailey usually writes, but nope. Once again, that switch flipped, and my man Aiden turned completely dominant, and it was hot. It was amazing. So I can't wait to reread this for this coming holiday season. Next up, we have Damien from The Stranger in Seat 8B by Nikki Castle. So this is a romance novella where we once again have a grumpy heroine and a sunshiny hero. You gotta love that trope. And so the hero and heroine meet when they are seated on a plane together right next to each other. And at first the heroine is definitely very standoffish to him. I mean, I'm the same way when I'm on a plane. I don't want you talking to me, girl. Like, I'm gonna sit in my seat and I wanna read my book, thank you. But Damien just gets under the heroine's skin after a while, and so they get to know each other. And then some steamy things happen on the plane, which is fun. And whoo, man, Damien is a hot hero. I mean, once again, like several of these heroes, he has a filthy mouth on him, and wow, he definitely took me by surprise. Also because I had never read anything by Nikki Castle, so I didn't know quite what to expect from her heroes, but Damien is something else. And I really loved the way that this romance progressed, because they eventually get off the plane, they think they're gonna go their separate ways, and then all of the flights at this airport are canceled. They end up at the same hotel together, and so they have this fun little fling together, and it's a wonderful time for sure. Highly recommend. So I do want to quickly bring up another hero that I read recently who has slight Cinnadom vibes. His vibes aren't as strong as some of the other heroes on this list, but I still wanted to mention him anyway, just because I loved this book and I love this hero. So that's The Rebel by Sophie Lark. This is book 2 in her Kingmaker Chronicle series. So our hero is Miles. He is a very irreverent type of hero. He is someone who hasn't really had to fight for anything in his life. He's never really had to work all that hard. Things come pretty easily to him, I would say, but he falls very hard for Zoe, who is like the opposite of him in every way. She's very serious, very studious. She kind of doesn't like Miles at first, but if you don't know, this takes place at like a mafia college. Zoe is in an arranged marriage situation with this complete psycho, and so as Miles falls for Zoe, he now has someone to fight for. And so what we see though is in the sex scenes in this book, Miles definitely has a dominant streak in him. He's not as strong of a dominant as some of the other heroes on this list, but there's a vibe there for sure. And I just loved seeing Zoe submit to him, and the sex scenes were hot. What can I say? I have 2 more heroes to talk about in this video. These are heroes that definitely have a softer vibe to them, but they are still both dominants, and both of these books have actual BDSM elements to them. So the first one I'm going to bring up is a Harry Potter fan fiction that I read last year and absolutely fell in love with. This is Safe Word is Devil's Snare by Shea Alani. The only reason why I have a physical copy of this fanfic is because of my amazing friend Mel from Mel Binds Fix. She made a bind of this fan fiction for me and mailed it to me, and it's just one of the best gifts that I have ever received. Like, she handmade this book herself, and wow, I can never thank her enough. I will leave a link down in the description where you can find this fanfic on AO3, also known as Archive of Our Own, which is the fanfiction site that I typically use. So in this Harry Potter fanfiction, we have Neville Longbottom as our hero and Hermione is our heroine. And this is taking place in a post-war world where we are seeing that there are a lot of squibs being born. If you don't remember what that is, those are non-magical children that are being born from 2 magical parents. And so they discover that the best way to ensure that your child is going to be magical is if you and your spouse are magically compatible. And so Hermione and the Ministry come up with this spell that will show who is the most magically compatible with one another. And so a whole group of these single witches and wizards get together, and the Ministry casts this spell on everyone, and you look around the room to see who glows the brightest, and Hermione finds that Neville is like blindingly bright. So clearly they are magically compatible. And so, I mean, we all know the type of guy Neville is. He's very sweet, for sure, definitely a cinnamon roll in every sense of that term. But he has also discovered in his adult life that he is a sexual dominant. He has gone to sex clubs and he has done his research, he's done his training, like he knows what he's doing in terms of being like a true BDSM dominant. And so as Hermione and Neville are falling for each other, they also develop their BDSM dominant submissive dynamic as well. And Neville is just such a wonderful hero in this because, like I said, he's a softer dom. So he's not as brutal and harsh as some other doms that you'll read about in other BDSM romances. He still has like a stern energy to him, but because he's Neville, he also has that softer side to him, and he's just wonderful. I cannot recommend this fanfiction enough. And another hero that I want to bring up that is also a softer dom is Trey from Gym Bunny by Brianna Hale. So this is book 2 in her Dom Fitness novella series. This centers around this gym that these 2 best friends, who are the 2 heroes of the novellas, have created together, where clients come to be trained by trainers who are doms. So you have the dominant submissive relationship, but it's not sexual at all. It only pertains to the fitness training of these clients. And so in this novella, as you can see on the cover, we have a plus-sized heroine, and she has trauma from her past because she was in a relationship with a dom who was very, very cruel to her. He definitely wasn't a healthy kind of dom at all in any sense of the word. And so now she has trauma from that past relationship. And when she sees Trey just standing in front of the gym handing out flyers, she's like instantly afraid of him because she knows that all of the trainers are doms. And so over the course of the novella, he shows her what a healthy dominant submissive relationship is. And Trey is just a wonderful, sweet cinnamon roll man. And I love that Trey just falls so hard for the heroine in this. And I also really like the discussion surrounding different kinds of doms within the BDSM realm, I guess you could say. And this was just so wonderful and sweet, yet sexy at the same time. So that is going to be it for the 11 romance heroes that I have to recommend to you that are Cinedoms. Definitely leave a comment down below if you have more heroes that you could recommend for this trope. These are definitely my absolute favorite kinds of romance heroes, so I love getting more recommendations if you have them. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!